Hi, I'm Mary Houlihan, Director of Victim Services for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, and I'm here with Dr. T.K. Logan, who is a researcher for the University of Kentucky, and what I like to say, she is the leading expert on stalking in the United States. She is the rock star of stalking, if you will. Her research has brought new attention to stalking and made the country aware of how stalking is not something to be taken lightly, but it is a crime and we need to react to it to save victims. Dr. Logan.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you could be here. I just want to talk briefly. Actually, January, which is the month that we're currently in, is Stalking Awareness Month. Right. And through TK, I was able to meet the sister of the person for whom Stalking Awareness Month got named, Debbie Riddle, and her sister Peggy Klinke was murdered after being stalked and really doing everything right but getting no help from a system that we're all working to try and improve. Can you tell us a little bit about Debbie and Peggy?
Peggy was stalked by her ex-boyfriend to the point to where there were multiple charges in multiple jurisdictions, because that's the nature of stalking. And you know, we don't all necessarily work out of one jurisdiction. These jurisdictions were not necessarily talking to each other, working with each other. And at that time that she was stalked, we really knew even less than we know now. She eventually moved to California to get away and to hide from him, but he was able to hire a private investigator and tracked her down to the neighborhood and then took her picture and started asking people, do you know this woman? Do you know where she lives? And he ended up intersecting with a delivery man who said, oh yeah, here's her address. And so he shows up at her door. She totally did not expect it. He had a gun. She ran to her neighbor's house. He ran in. He had her and the neighbor in the house. And then he did let the neighbor out. And he shot her and then shot himself. And Debbie has just really taken on this cause and doesn't want Peggy's death to go in vain, and really wants to recognize and to have that memory and to help other women who are in her situation, because I mean, it was really like she was terrorized for years in this process. And the interesting thing to me is that Debbie came out and said, we really didn't know where to turn for help. We didn't know what domestic violence was. We didn't know what agencies were. So for us as a family, we didn't recognize the signs. We didn't know where to turn. Help was there. We just didn't realize. And I think that still is a problem for stalking today.
Can you tell us a little bit about the prevalence of stalking and the rates at which it's happening that we know about?
There's a study that was just released from the CDC that show really high rates of stalking. 1 in 6 women and 1 in 19 men will be stalked in their lifetime. And when I say stalking, there is a difference between sort of the legal definition of stalking and stalking-like behavior. So to meet the legal definition, which this study did use, it has to be a repeated behavior, make up a course of conduct that is unwanted and that causes the target fear or concern for safety. And so that right there, what I find, especially with younger women, is they're not always sure what to think about these behaviors, or their fight with themselves about, oh, should I be afraid? And so what I like to say is, if your intuition is pointing that direction, definitely listen to it. And second, if it's you or a friend and you're not sure what to think, how is it affecting your life? Are you changing things? Are you avoiding phone calls? Are you avoiding going places? Are you afraid of a confrontation or wanting to avoid some kind of confrontation? Are you dreading when you pull up and you see a car? Those are signs that should be telling you there's something not right about this situation. And one of the interesting things is half of female stalking victims and about 1/3 of male victims are stalked for the first time before age 25. So we are talking about young people here and dating violence, which is an issue for Kentucky.
Technology is changing so fast that, you know, kids now, they tweet, they Facebook, they tell half of their lives.
Lots of information.
Open up themselves to the public and are made to feel that that's all very safe. And it is, until it isn't. Are you finding that media and technology is really increasing what stalkers and domestic violence perpetrators can do?
The way I like to think about technology is it's just another tool. Where I find the issue is that I feel like a lot of us we don't really have ideas still about what is okay on Facebook and Twitter and what isn't. And so I've had a lot of people come to me and say, well, this person is posting weird and creepy things on Facebook, either to me, or I'm taking it as a threat, or about me. What should I do? Should I unfriend them? And I'm like, yes, unfriend them. But it's this technology that we get engaged in, emotionally attached to, and we don't always know, and we haven't really talked about what are those rules, and we're still working that out. And meanwhile, technology is advancing, so we've got these GPS locators, and all of these different things that are blasting our location and all, and just it's a lot to keep up with, which is and it's all positive in many ways, but can be used against us in a number of ways.
It really is. And we don't want our message to be such that it's just about scaring young kids to death, because they are going to use these medias. They're going to soar past all of us actually in their use of these medias, and there can be some very positive, obviously, use of these medias. However, I think that the overall message about what is okay and not okay in a relationship of any sort is where we need to focus our attention. Dr. Logan, I know that you are speaking next week at the White House. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
You know, what's really exciting about that is this year I have seen, and especially this year, even 2012, I've seen more attention to this issue than I've seen in the over decade that I've been studying stalking. So I just really feel like we are on the brink of really getting our teeth into this issue, both locally, thanks to you and Ray and the other members in the community, Terry Farragher and the Domestic Violence Prevention Board, and everybody, as well as our state, Kentucky, which actually we are ranked, we have the highest prevalence rates of stalking in the nation according to the CDC report, but I also think we're doing some really good work on that issue, and nationally.
When I started working with Dr. Logan several months ago, you don't really have a good, clear picture of what stalking is as a college student, because, I mean, I really felt like I was never exposed to anything like that. And then you get into reading these files, and a lot of it's really heavy stuff that these people go through. They are being followed, and, they just don't feel like they have their own personal bubble anymore, and that's really evident in the files that we work with. And I think that it's just really sad that their kind of personal security is taken away from them.
I absolutely feel like I have a lot to learn. I'm a brand new grad student, so I am actually going to be presenting with another researcher a presentation on stalking next week at a conference. And I had never studied domestic violence or stalking or sexual assault before I came to UK. And definitely looking at, like you said, going from kind of like your normal experiences with it, hearing about it in the media, just hearing about different cases versus studying it is definitely different.
Kentucky may be one of only 4 states that does not look at dating violence as something that needs protection in the community. Within that state are a lot of advocates, politicians, business people, agencies, governmental workers that want to change that, and will continue to work to change it, to catch up with the other states that have already realized that protection is paramount to protecting our citizens. TK and I know we continue to work on it, even though every time that protection is not given by the legislature of Kentucky, it's a blow to all of us, and it kind of makes it hard to get ready for that fight again. But we are all preparing for that fight again as the legislature comes into session at the end of this month. Thank you for being with us today and for talking about this important issue.